Here you are a bit of a SEO scientist as well. So what sparks your curiosity to actually perform the SEO test?
I always tell people if you really want to have a career in SEO, you have to learn how everything works.
Guys tackle with that kind of scenario where the ranking is being increasing or something every second mile. You know what I mean?
I said, hey, why don't you just pivot and you go start the SEO side of things because we can hire anybody to do it.
Find SEO or did SEO find you? What happened?
It was like, well, back in my day, it was so much better, but
Uh,
I do miss those early 2000s.
Welcome to today's episode of the Agency Growth Lab. And today I'm thrilled to have Greg Gifford with us, a well-known speaker in many SEO conferences and the mastermind behind Chicago-based digital marketing agency SearchLab Digital, where they don't just rank websites, they make them roar. So whether he's been helping businesses climb the search rank or a pet lover spending time with his furry friends at home, Greg is all about nurturing relationships and fetching results. So, welcome to the show, Greg. It's been great to have you here, ready to dive into the secrets of SEO and maybe even decode the mysteries of Google algorithm updates. How are you doing today?
That puts a lot of pressure on me now to say awesome stuff. Otherwise, people are going to listen to the episode and be like, after that intro, this was such a letdown.
Yeah, no, that's all right, man. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks
It's
for
got to
asking.
be like what, late night for you right now, right?
Yeah, it's not that bad actually. It's 7:30 p.m. up here. So yeah,
Okay,
and
not too bad.
yeah, it's just excited to know. I mean, like before the call, once the people gonna listening, like we were talking together, and Greg was telling me for his upcoming visit was planned but didn't happen to India. And
I'm
so yeah, I just look
I was
forward.
really kind of nice to them though, so I was like, yeah, I'm already speaking at another event, but your conference sounds awesome. I'd love to come to India. Please invite me back next year because I'd
Yeah.
really love to come, but I don't really get to choose where to go. I kind of have to go wherever the conferences are.
Okay. Now, and in this particular podcast, we're going to talk about the Google business profiles and local SEO mainly. So, yeah, before we get into the nitty-gritty, and let's start with a bit of a backstory, Greg. How did you, I mean, like, stumble upon this SEO? Is that you find SEO or did SEO find you? What happened?
Kind of a little bit of both. So way back in the day, I just was kind of doing computers as a self-taught thing back in the 90s, mainly because I'm just a nerd like that, and it was kind of fun to figure it out. And a friend of mine needed a website built, and he was like, I know you've built a couple of websites just for fun. Could you make a website for my new business? And I said, sure. And another friend at the table with us was like, hey, there's this new thing called Flash that does animation on websites. You should check it out. And so I said, okay. And I checked it out. And so I built my friend's website all in Flash. And this was like when Flash very first came out.
Okay.
And because I was a film major in college, and at the time when Flash first came out, it wasn't very code heavy, and it was more just about creating animation, and it was a timeline based editor. So it just kind of clicked with my film editing background. So I made a lot of really cool websites because other people at the time were just trying to make it look like HTML with a little bit of animation. And I just said, there's no limits to what we can do. Let's make really cool stuff. And now looking back on it, it's like we made horrible, like 2 minute long animated intros that at the time everybody thought was cool, and now we're like, oh god, what were we even thinking?
Yeah.
But I kind of turned that, I turned his website into two or three more websites, and then turned it into my own agency creating Flash websites. And we figured out really quickly that the content wasn't showing up in Google at all, because Flash was literally just an HTML file that said display Flash, and then whatever
Yeah.
was in Flash was an index. So we figured out a way to get that content indexed, not realizing that it was very nefarious and very against the rules. It was some really evil cloaking stuff, which we didn't think was evil. We were just trying to get the content to show up. And that was kind of my first introduction to trying to show up in Google. And things didn't go so great with the company because my partners weren't as invested as I was, and they had their own things. And so we kind of decided to just shut it down and part ways. And then at that point, I got a job working as a flash designer for a company that did websites for car dealers. And then very quickly they were like, "Oh, you're way overqualified to just do this. Why don't you run the whole design department?" So I did that. And they were like, "You know a lot about marketing. Why don't you run our marketing?"
Into
And then I
that.
did that. And so that was like 4 months in. I was already running the entire marketing. And then they decided they wanted to start selling SEO as a service. And we started interviewing other people to come in to run this fledgling SEO department. And nobody seemed to know as much about it as I did. So then the owner of the company said, "Hey, why don't you just pivot and you go start the SEO side of things? Because we can hire anybody to do marketing."
Yep.
And so that's what I did. And that's when I really got into SEO very heavily and have been in love with local SEO ever since.
Oh yeah, that's pretty exciting actually. It's one of an exciting story I've actually come through as well. You're calling about back in early 2000? Is it what the time
Yeah,
was?
yeah. Like this was like I want to say like mid '90s when I did when I did my own thing, and then I want to say it was right early 2000s when I started working at the dealership, probably like
Oh
2004, 2005 when I started doing the SEO for
yeah.
the website company for dealerships. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I can just imagine. I mean, like, remember the time when I started back in 2012? It was so much easy that time, but yeah, now it has
Wasn't
changed a
it?
lot.
Like I kind of miss I hate being that kind of guy because like you always hear like it's the kind of the cliche that like the grandparent style person is like, well, back in my day it was so much better, but
Uh,
I do miss those early 2000s where it was just
sure.
you could put a couple keywords on the page and jump to number one. It was so much easier.
So much easier. Now, jumping right in, Greg, I mean, like, what's the pulse of SEO today, you reckon? I mean, with all the
It's all
changes
over
and
the place.
yeah, all
You
the
know,
changes
with
that are going on, I mean, like, what do you really think? Like, what strategies are really working these days, you reckon?
Yeah, so AI has really kind of thrown a lot of things for a loop because now it's easy to do content at scale, but it's
Yep.
crappy content. So does it really
Yep.
help you or not? Google's released a bunch of pretty major updates over the last year and a half, and the last one a few months ago is really focusing on content. And then we
Yep.
had the big Google leak that a lot of people are freaking out about. That I'm a little bit more on the other side of the fence, where I'm like, all right, we don't even know that any of this is being used. Like it's completely one little element taken way out of context with no
Yep.
weights or no insight that like, all right, cool, go test some things, but like it really shouldn't change the way that you do SEO. But there
Yep.
is a lot out there. I think unfortunately because it's gotten so much more complex over the years, a lot of agencies, a lot of freelancers have I don't want to say they're lazy, but they're complacent. They're doing the bare minimum, or they're just doing checklist SEO and doing the same thing that they've always done. And it seems like there are a lot fewer people
Yep.
using critical thinking and thinking
Yep.
outside the box and trying to say, all right, here's this site that I want to get more visibility for. What do I actually do? What's really going to move the needle instead of going, oh, I want to get this site to rank higher. That means let me add a page of content and put the keyword in the title tag and in the H1 heading and in the meta description and the alt text. It's, I feel like there's so much information out there about how to do SEO. Whether it's correct or not, there is a wealth of information. There's videos, there's blog posts, there's webinars, there's guides, there's books.
Yep.
And it's really easy for someone getting into SEO to just kind of follow those checklists. And you can still
Mhm.
get some results that way. So you think that it's working, but it's nowhere near as effective as actually doing things because you know that that is a weak spot in the digital footprint and
Yep.
strengthening that weak spot gives you more visibility. So
Yep.
one of the things that I've actually been saying, I do a lot of training classes on local SEO because I
Yep.
speak at a lot of conferences, and a lot of these conferences have the extra day of training either before or after the conference
Yep.
that you pay extra for, and it's an all day training class. And when I do those training classes, I always tell people if you really want to have a career in SEO, you have to learn how everything works
Yep.
because if you're just following a checklist, you're chasing the algorithm. You never want to be an algorithm chaser because you're going to always be trying to catch up.
Following the
You want to
checklist.
be forward thinking. You want to predict where things are going. You want to future proof your work. So you need to understand the why of what you're doing. Understand that the reason you're updating a title tag is because the title tag influences click-through rate, and the title tag gives Google insight around what's on the page. And test different title tags. Don't just go keyword vertical bar, keyword 2 vertical bar, business
Yeah.
name. Like there's a lot of
That
lazy
doesn't
SEO
work.
out there nowadays.
Oh yeah. No, that's very true. I mean, like I was having a podcast with Kyle Roof other day, and we were talking about those data-driven SEOs, how the whole thing has been changed, where we just need to read the data to take a calculated decisions, like what is the best way going ahead, and that involves a lot of testing as well. And that's something I'm going to ask you, like because I hear you are a bit of a SEO scientist as well. So, what sparks your curiosity to actually perform the SEO tests? And once you do these kind of like a SEO tests, like testing out the different headings, maybe the content pieces or something, how do you actually go about measure out their results as well?
Well, see, that's honestly my problem with a lot of people that say that they do these SEO tests, because they'll say, "Oh, I changed this title tag and I ranked better." And then you dig in a little bit and you're like, "Okay, did you touch nothing else and all you changed is the title tag?" They're like, "No, I updated the content and I put some new images and I threw a video on the page and we redid the site architecture and we built a couple links to the page." Okay, well, if that's the case, why are you saying that updating the title tag gave you better visibility? Like, you have to really be scientific about what you
Oh,
do,
yes.
because you can't change 5 things on the page and then make the assumption that one of those things was the reason or even part of the reason, because maybe of the 5 things that you changed, item number 4 was what actually moved the needle. But you
Exactly.
wouldn't know that unless you're doing independent tests.
Yes.
So I think a lot of people don't understand how to test things correctly because there's no statistical relevance in what they're doing. They're just kind of making these assumptions. But yeah, we love to do testing. We actually just recently, a few months ago, finished a 2-year research project where we studied over 8,000 Google Business profiles in 3 different verticals, so that we could see, and this wasn't a study to say this is a ranking factor or this is the most important ranking factor. I wanted to do a study that was a little bit more basic because it's too hard with all of the factors in Google Business profiles and including the factors on your website, which do influence your visibility in the
Yep.
map pack, to say this one thing really matters. And then you could go in and say, well, let's get a data scientist and look at these ordinal variables and see if there's statistical relevance. I'm not interested in that. What we did is we pulled a crap ton of data points. It's like 3.6 million data points over two
Mhm.
years.
Yep.
And then we can look and say, all right, because local is so complex, every vertical is not treated the same. There are elements in the business profile that exist for some verticals that don't exist for others. And
Yes.
even within one vertical, things that work in one city don't work in another. If you're a personal injury attorney and there's only 3 in your town, you're going to be in the map pack every time, no matter what. But if you're a
Yep.
personal injury attorney in like Las Vegas or Los Angeles or Chicago or
Then,
Dallas, there's so much
yeah,
competition. It's going to be a
exactly.
lot harder to gain visibility. So what we did was say, all right, look, in this vertical, in these cities, this is the average number of reviews. This is the average review score, the average number of photos, because we're looking at both factors that we know influence ranking and factors that we know don't influence ranking but do influence conversions. So we
Mm.
wanted to just kind of see what the averages look like, and we can do it by region. But then more importantly, we went into the local finder to see beyond just the top 3 in the map pack. So we pulled positions 1 through 20 in all these cities for a bunch of different keywords. And we can now compare position number 1 to position number 10 to position number 20. And if everyone, according to the most recent version of the local search ranking factor study, which is typically kind of the Bible for local
Yep.
SEO, the most influential factor is the primary category. So then we
Yep.
can see if the search is personal injury attorney,
What kind of?
the guys that rank number 1 have that for their primary category, and the guys that
Yep.
rank number 10 tend to not have that for their primary
Yep.
category. So it's not saying it's a ranking factor, but do the data points support commonly believed best practices. And in
Exactly.
90-95% of the cases, they really did. And it was very clear that the guys that ranked number one were doing all the things that you would assume someone that's doing SEO would do, and the guys that ranked number 10 weren't. In some cases, though, it did kind of turn things on its head. In automotive, for example, for car dealers in the United States, you would assume that the guys at number one have more links than the guys at number 10, and it was actually opposite of that. The guys at number 10 had significantly more backlinks than the guys at number one.
Yep.
The problem is, though, if you dig in more, it's the strategy of how they're doing it. The guys at number one were getting quality links and local links. The guys at
Exactly.
number 10 were just going for numbers. They were just like, oh, and because a lot of people have said that links are kind of a silver bullet and everybody wants that easy win.
Yep.
So if you're ranking low, well, what can I do to beat the guys above me? I can get more links than they can. But you go and get crappy links and it doesn't matter. So you still rank number 10, but now you got a lot more links. So a lot of the times, everything matched up to what you would expect. And pretty much every time that something didn't match up to what you would expect, if we go in and really look, it's because that thing that they're doing more of, they're not doing it correctly, which is why it didn't work.
I completely agree to that because some people, and these are some of the like bitter truth of the industry, they just push more backlinks. They don't really look at the quality, and
Yeah.
they just do a publish and pray kind of an approach. That something
Yep.
gonna happen, and they probably be on the top of Google, gonna be doing some
Yeah,
Google.
exactly.
So yeah, now you spoke about like Google business profiles, and that's something we do it in our agency as well. That's our specialty is the Google business profile as well. So let's talk about that one for a bit. So let's take a hypothetical scenario, for example, for service-based businesses, because that's one of a main one. Location-based are still a little easy. So service-based businesses, there is a grid map. It's coming up in front of you, and you're gonna say, okay, there is number two on this longitude, latitudes. And then the next, I mean, like 2 miles from there, that's showing the same business, position number 9, for example. So something like a surrounding one. So how do you guys tackle with that kind of scenario where the ranking is being increasing or something every second mile? You know what I mean? So how you guys do about that?
So it kind of depends on the business because when you're talking about those grid maps, those aren't really entirely accurate. We really don't use those as a KPI to show success
Yep,
because that is some computer program trying to spoof a real world location, and
yep,
it very rarely matches up to what actual humans would see in
exactly.
that same location. Because we also know that your past search history influences what you're going to see. So, you and I could be in a room together and do the same search on our phones and potentially see different or slightly different results
Yep,
based on the past. So we really use the grids as more kind of a high level, like as we do things we should see some improvement, but we don't really count that as like an infallible of like, oh well, that next grid dot's 2 miles away and it says you rank number 9. Maybe you rank number 3 or number 4 for all we know. So what we want to see though on our team at least is improvement. We want to see it going from, a lot of yellow or a lot of red to more yellow or more green or more orange. And we just want to see that improvement, that blossom of if the grid rank tracker is showing you improvement, then that means you are improving in the real world.
you
Are
are
you
improved.
improving as much as
Yep,
it says? Maybe you're improving more. Who knows? We really try to pay more attention to search impressions and traffic and leads
yep,
more than rank tracking because
yep,
rank tracking. I've gone on a lot of rants about rank tracking at conferences. I think as a success metric is inherently flawed because of what we just talked about. It doesn't necessarily reflect reality. And the other part is you got a lot of freelancers and agencies out there that will say, hey, look, you don't have to pay us unless we get you to rank. And then overnight, they get you to rank for 100 phrases, but
yep.
they're 100 phrases that no customer is ever going to use. So who cares that you rank number one for those phrases? Because it's not
Yep.
going to help you sell more of your stuff. So we care more about do sales improve over time than do rankings
Leads.
improve over time.
Yep. So the leads, the impressions, and what the GA is talking about, that kind of things you guys mainly go after because that actually
Exactly.
complete 360-degree overview of the efforts as well,
Yeah,
which direction it's going. Nah, that's a very good point. And another hot topic in the industry is EEIT. So let's talk about the local businesses because I know that's your main specialty is like when you're getting any new client on board, how do you go about improving their EAT factors in regards to the website, in regards to the off page as well?
kind of like I'm gonna sound like super negative guy on this episode. We kind of we don't really pay attention to EEAT because EEAT is not a ranking factor,
Okay.
and it's another one of those things that Google will mention, and SEOs will take it and then say, "Oh, if you improve the first E, you're going to rank better." Well, no, because Google never said it worked that way. EEAT is an acronym that makes it easier to say in a quick acronym the things that you should be doing to improve your site in general, not that those things are ranking factors. So, we actually don't pay attention to EEAT. We pay attention to, are you putting things on the website that enhance the customer experience? It's
Yeah.
all about having the answers to the questions that potential customers and current customers are asking and having a better website experience than the local competition. Doing those things will just naturally improve your EEAT.
Yep.
So we don't really, it's not that we ignore EEAT, we just don't look at it as a factor. So it's not something that we use as a KPI. It's not even really something that our team pays attention to, although we kind of do because it's about providing the right answers that people can trust, which is EEAT.
I agree to this. Yeah. No, that's true. Um, Another nasty question. I mean, like it's this recent nightmare the people had, which was the March algorithm update,
Yeah.
which just I mean like spoofed off, I mean like a big sites, even the smaller ones from the web. Google literally went out and de-indexed a lot of sites, even some of the genuine ones as well. What do you think about that? And what is the best way you reckon that to recover those sites? Because if you really ask me, I haven't seen even a single site which has been recovered properly after this Google algorithm update. I
Yeah,
could
and
be wrong too.
it's kind of confusing that all of a sudden we see all these Reddit sites popping up. I think that it has to be tied into that Reddit deal. I think the Reddit deal is honestly kind of a good idea though, because they're trying to train Gemini, the AI side of Google, they're trying to train it, and they've already gone through all of the content on the web that they have
Yep,
access to. So making the
yep,
deal with Reddit gives them more natural language content,
okay.
because crawling a bunch of websites only gets you so far because a lot of those websites are writing crappy AI content already. So trying to train your AI on crappy AI content isn't really going to get you anywhere. They want to make it more natural, make it more conversational. And the way to do that is to get access to more content that they know is written by humans. And those Reddit threads are very, very human driven content. So I think that side is smart. I think boosting those Reddit threads to be the number one ranked answer for most queries is an odd choice.
Yep.
I also think it's really weird now that they've rolled out AI overviews that there have been a lot of, obviously they dialed it back because there was the whole, get your cheese to stick better by adding glue to your pizza and like goofy stuff
Agree.
like that.
Yep.
But even with the rollback, you can still see a lot of things where, they've kind of replaced featured snippets with AI overviews, but that AI overview won't really be an AI overview. It's just word for word copy of what is in a website. And
Exactly
the
right.
other weird thing, Lily Ray's done a lot of research on it. A lot of other people have too, that typically that AI overview isn't coming from one of the top ranking sites. It's coming from a site that ranks like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20. So why are
Exactly.
they pulling an AI overview from something that the algorithm says this isn't a great answer? Here's ranked number 1, 2, and 3. These are what we say are the three best answers. But they pull the AI overview from something else.
Yep.
That's questionable. And then Google says, but the AI overviews, those websites are getting a lot more clicks. Well, yeah,
Yep.
because you're giving AI overviews from stuff that weren't ranking on page one. So of course it's going to be more clicks, but those guys that rank number one for sure aren't getting as many clicks because of the AI overview. So all of that is crazy. Then you have all those sites like you mentioned that got really hit that now can't come back. Now, deservedly on some of them, everybody kind of always, dogs on the recipe sites because you want to go get an awesome recipe for garlic mashed potatoes and you have to read 2,000 words of grandma's history and how she immigrated and had nothing for years and had to learn how to make really tasty mashed potatoes because that was all they could afford for 20 years, and then the kids loved it even though they had more. It's this humongous long story that you have to scroll through just to get to the recipe for the damn mashed potatoes. Okay, yeah, that shouldn't rank number one for mashed potato recipe because I just want the recipe. I don't want 2,000 words on grandma's immigration and
Exactly.
family history.
Exactly.
So those make sense to go down. But like travel bloggers that have real stories of travel and places to
They just
go,
went down as well.
they got tanked, and now it's these aggregate TripAdvisor sites that aren't as good. And yeah, when I'm reading a travel blog, I do want that history. I do want it. I don't want just, hey, stay at this hotel and eat at these three restaurants. I want the story. I stayed at this hotel. This restaurant's awesome because it's right around the corner and the service was amazing and nobody, like, I want that story when I'm reading that stuff. So
Exactly.
I think it's more of Google makes these broad sweeps to try to provide better search results. And in that broad sweep, maybe 50, 60, 70% is correct. And it was a good
Mhm.
job of in cleaning up or whatever the goal was, they achieved that goal. But then the other 25 to 30% is overkill and it actually screws things up that shouldn't have been screwed up.
Yep.
I don't think it's intentional. I think they're just trying to say, we get one swing of the sword. Let's try to handle as much as we can. And if there's a little collateral damage, oh well, we can fix it in a later update. At scale, I mean, thinking about the ridiculous scale of the internet and what Google's trying to do, it's probably the only way to do it. But it sucks for that 25 to 30% that get tanked, and you gotta hope that you can recover or hope that they figure out a way to undo that mistake. But
Undo that one. No,
I think it's
I doubt
pretty
it's gonna.
obvious. I help on the Google Business Profile Community Forum, where people can come in and say I'm having a problem, and different product experts like myself will come in and say here's how to fix it. It's pretty obvious that Google doesn't really care about individual businesses,
Yep. No, that's
and
true.
Google, and people forget, Google kind of treat, or people kind of treat Google like it's this free utility, like it's this free thing, free tool to help us do things. It's not. Google's a company. Google has shareholders. Google has to make a profit. And you have to remember Google's interest is in making money, not helping you. And
Yep.
sure, you may be the best restaurant in town, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to rank number one. And it doesn't necessarily
Exactly.
mean if you follow all the rules and do the right things that other people aren't going to cheat and beat you anyway.
Exactly right.
And so that's kind of unfortunate. There are a lot of businesses that struggle because they get hit by these updates.
Yep. No,
I think
that's
Google's doing the best that it can, but it's just the sheer scale of everything makes it impossible to be right all the time.
and no, I completely agree to that. That's the thing that there are few things where the sites they were very genuine. They were putting in like a proper handwritten content as well, but still they got tagged. And
Yeah.
when we try to look at those sites, we got a lot of clients. They started screaming and they said like, "Hey, can you check our sites? What has actually happened and all that? We're gonna sign up the campaigns for you." But the thing is, like, we couldn't really figure out, to be honest, like what is wrong with
Sometimes it
this
doesn't
site.
make
The
sense at
on
all.
page is super perfect. I can't. I said like, if you're gonna say there is not even a single thing I can find out like a problem with your on page. Your backlink profile is very sweet. Your GBP is very much optimized
Yeah.
as well. Honestly speaking, I do not know what has happened.
And
So yeah,
and that's what's really weird too, because obviously business owners are always like, I'm the best, I should be number one. But then, as an SEO, you come look at it and you're like, bro, your website's horrible. That's why you're not number one. But when you have these sites that get hit, and as SEOs, we look at these sites and we're like, I don't even understand why this guy's not showing up better because he's clearly got better content. Like you said, better
please.
content, better links, better profile.
Yep.
better reviews, but they
Yep.
still don't rank. Like that's where it gets really frustrating because, and again, that's where testing is important. You got to start testing a lot of different things because you followed best practices and you look at the competition and you're clearly better, but you're still not ranking. So what's going on? And that's, I mean, I guess it's job security for a lot of us because that means if there's always this confusion about what's working, there's always going to be a need for SEOs. But
Yep.
it's it's really it's unfortunate that so many business owners that are trying to do the right thing and doing the right thing still get hit by these updates and still get screwed over.
But a lot of people, as I know, they're getting inclined, these agency owners, they're getting inclined to the paid media as well now. They're thinking like, hey, there is no much guarantee into the things in SEO that maybe it's really required to diversify the things. And maybe it's a good time to get on the PPC or even the Facebook ads, that kind of models in their bouquet as well. So
Yeah, but that just costs more money though, you know?
that's
It's more
obviously,
expensive to do that and bigger businesses fine. Yeah, it's great. You've got the budget, you can do it. But those small mom and pop businesses where, it's the business owner and their spouse and those are the only employees,
yes.
they probably don't have a lot of marketing budget to be able to go and spend money on ads and some local restaurant that is literally it's the husband is the chef and cooks all the food and it's the wife up waiting tables and delivering food and maybe a relative or a
Yeah.
friend, so there's three or four people there. You don't have anybody that's got the time to go learn how to do Google ads, and if they have anything, they've got a few $100, so they'd really be throwing that money away if they were doing ads because there's not enough to compete. Those people are still left out in the cold.
Yep.
The people that have more of a budget, sure, they can do ads and they can make up for that
Yep.
deficit, but a lot of businesses don't have the time or the money to do that. So what do? It's unfortunate. It's
Yep.
we have to play in Google's sandbox, and Google doesn't always follow the same rules, and we have to just scramble and try to figure out what works.
Yeah, no, I completely agree to that. So are you fan of AI content as well? Because
Yeah,
or do you guys actually use the AI content in your agency as well
we have started using AI content for a couple of pieces here and there as a test.
as a
Uh,
test?
I think the biggest problem with AI content is the vast majority of people out there don't realize that the Chat GPTs, the Jaspers, the whatevers aren't actually thinking and aren't actually writing content. It's
Yep.
just word prediction, and you get
Yep.
that hallucination. So I don't think there's anything out there that is production ready where you can say, with any kind of prompt engineering,
Yep.
give me a piece of content and that piece of content is ready to publish.
Ye-
So it requires a lot of human editing and intervention before it is ready for publishing. And so that's kind of what we're looking at on some of these simpler things. Uh, you know, Posts where, like we have a lot of car dealers.
Yep.
And so you want to write a page on the website about doing oil changes because you want to show up for oil changes so people will come in.
Mhm.
We're kind of starting to look and say, all right, let's take a couple of our clients and maybe try writing that with AI and then human
I
editing
understand.
for
Yep.
fact checking and for rewriting all the goofy stuff.
Yep.
AI loves to say, as we delve into things or like all these weird things, use the human editing to fix it and fact check it and then put it up. And we're kind of testing that against the human written content to the AI and human edited content to see, is this still sufficient? And I kind of think it is, but it's not what most people are doing. Most people are using Chat GPT or Jasper
Right.
or whatever, taking that
Straight away.
content and throwing it on the site. You've got
Yep.
to, and I'm not talking human editing as an SEO, you get that piece of content and you read through it, it's okay. You need to use an editor, a person
Yes.
that understands language and grammar and that can also fact check these things.
Yep.
And I think it's starting to get there. I think it's doable in some cases. I would never do an entire website with it, but I think our tests look promising so far.
Yeah. Now that actually makes sense. So just a very final couple of questions are actually it's $1 million question. I will go. It's like, is that how do you guys go about finding the new quality leads for your agency? What is that? I mean, like for anyone
So
who is
yeah,
starting out, let's say, or maybe on a bootstrap budget, one of the biggest struggle what I've seen with those people, with those agency owners, are basically to find out the new leads. They know how to rank, they can manage that kind of things, but
yep.
leads are something they do get struggle with, and they don't have an idea about that.
So I mean, for us, we do have a marketing guy who's amazing. Uh, really, honestly, the vast majority of leads that we get for new business come from me speaking at conferences and a couple other people at the agency that speak at conferences. But a lot of people in SEO see me as this guy that speaks at a lot of SEO conferences, but I don't really speak at that many. It's 5 or 6 a year, which to some people may seem like a lot, but I spoke at 25 conferences last year. I did 32 the year before that. So I speak at a lot of conferences. And last year, of the 25 conferences that I did, only 6 of them were SEO or digital marketing conferences. The other 19 were vertical specific conferences. So, like, it's a conference just for car dealers, or a conference just for
Mm.
attorneys, or a conference just for healthcare. And that's where we get a lot of our leads. So, we are very aggressive in having a booth in the expo area at these conferences. So, we have a booth presence where people that are walking around and looking for a solution can talk to our sales team. And then we typically have me or 1 or 2 other people that will speak at that conference. So then we have that voice of expertise up on stage. That's where we get a ton of business. I have a weekly video series as well
Yep.
called Local Search Tuesdays. Comes out every Tuesday, obviously. Be kind of funny if it was called Local Search Tuesdays, but it came out on Thursdays. Like, people would be like, "What?"
Yeah.
But it's short, little 3 to 5 minute videos of singular tips of tactics and strategies. And I've been doing that at various agencies for about 10 years now. So I've got a lot of video content out there. I've also done video training courses for the Semrush Academy and for Bright Local. And I do those training courses before conferences. So we actually do get leads pretty often from video content that we've put out. And all that video content is also on YouTube, so people will find it on YouTube and contact us that way. But then we also have a sales team.
Yep.
And the sales team isn't just sitting there at booths. The sales team is generating business. And I think that's something a lot of agencies miss out on. A lot of
Great
agencies
call.
don't have, even a singular salesperson. And they're hoping for referrals and word of mouth. And maybe the agency owner or one of the leadership team will make a couple of cold calls, but typically those people don't really know sales tactics. So having an actual salesperson on staff that's going to go out and make these calls and get you connected with prospects is pretty vital. And we've grown a lot. I mean, by millions of dollars of annualized revenue since I
Mhm.
started at this agency, and it's because we have a really awesome sales team and we're really good at event-based marketing.
Oh yeah. So when you say about those booths, the one which you put it in the events or somewhere, what's a
Yep.
hook? What's a kind of a hook you guys are putting on those booths to attract the audience to your booth as such?
Yeah, so it depends on the event. Some of them we've got our own little kind of booth that packs down into a little hard case and we can just ship it and our salesperson can set it up. Some of the bigger events we actually have a kind of a booth company because it's a big massive, like, the biggest we've done is a 20-foot by 30-foot booth,
Yep.
and it's massive, like 20 feet tall and all kinds of stuff, and TVs on the walls with stuff playing and a lot of staff people there and computers so we can sit down. And we do have one conference that's our biggest conference of the year. It's about 40,000 people at the event. We've the last 2 years we've had a magician that will sit there and do card tricks, and that kind of attracts people into the booth. We have me standing around. It's definitely helpful if I've spoken at that event that I'm standing at the booth, because then people will see me. And when I speak, I always wear a vest and a bow tie, so I wear that in the booth. So it's that kind of recognition. We actually just got these really cool new things. It's like I just packed it up yesterday. I could have, like, shown you what it looks like. You know
Yep.
the banner stands where it's like a base and you pull it out and it's
You
like
pull it off.
on a
Yep.
spring roll and you stick
Yep.
it up. So it's that size, but it's an LED panel. And
Oh
so
yeah.
it ships in this big kind of conference case, but it's an LED panel. So up close, it's just individual lights, but from anything like 3 feet or further away, it's effectively a TV screen. and then
Yeah.
it's got a speaker that connects to it. And so now we'll be able to, even if I'm not at a conference, we can have that banner stand that's an LED stand at our booth with
Talking
me
about.
talking about, hey, come work with us. Here's what we
Yep.
do. And so it's this constant loop. And it's
Yep.
not that our sales team couldn't do that already, but when you're walking through all of these booths and all of a sudden you see this massive, big, 6 foot tall video screen with someone talking and words flying around, it's just eye catching. So it's like
Yeah.
what stands out. Another thing that we do, we have really nice hats with our logo on it that we give away at the booth, and we actually do socks. So we do 2 sock designs every year, and it's different. So like after December of this year, we won't have these 2 sock designs ever again, and we'll do new socks for next year. So we have a lot of people that will see us every year at these events, and they're always going to come by, go, I loved your socks last time. Oh my gosh, you have new socks. And now people have figured out every time they see us, we're going to have new socks. So they'll seek us out to come see what the new socks
Yeah.
look like. So it's a lot of little subtle things that just
Yeah.
try to add value and stopping by and having a conversation, because anybody that stops and has a conversation is an opportunity to get a demo phone call set up.
Exactly right. Now it's an omnipresence as I can see in your case. So now it's a marvelous work actually, I would say, man. It's not that easy, and I guess the whole thing can only work properly if the sales team and everyone should put kind of a collective effort into the thing as well, which I'm
Exactly. Yeah.
assuming
Everybody
is
has to
happening
work
in your
really
case.
well integrated together. And again, that's really hard to do something like that if you're an agency that doesn't have a sales team,
Yeah.
because there's a massive difference in having someone like me in the booth, or an agency owner, or one of the managers of the agency, or even one of the consultants that does the work standing in the booth talking to people to answer technical questions, versus having a sales team that knows how to engage people and knows how to, somebody's walking by, and if it was just me, like they're walking by, I might say hey, or maybe they stop by and say hey because they saw me speak. But the sales team starts asking them questions, and they know how to engage people and know how to get people on the hook and know how to draw people in and get them off of the aisle and into your booth. Once they cross over that boundary, you should be able to get a lead.
Thing. Yeah,
So
no,
again, it's where having a salesperson or a sales team makes a massive difference on that event.
yes.
So it's a often overlooked but very, very powerful thing to do if you're an
Yep.
agency owner.
No, that's great, man. That's really marvelous stuff. And you're a pet lover as well, aren't you?
I am. I am.
Yeah.
I've
And
I have a lot. So I have 6 pets, and that's actually way down. About a year and a half ago, we had 11 pets. So
oh,
yeah, we
yeah.
love animals.
And what kind of pets are they? I mean, like dogs or
So
cats or
yeah,
what?
now I have 3 dogs and 3 cats.
Oh, yeah, and they're
Back when
friendly.
we had 11, I had 4 dogs, 3 cats, 3 rats, and a bird.
Yeah, we have always heard kind of a stories in the past when I was a kid, like the dogs and cats, they just loved, I mean, like they just fight with each other all the time. They just go and kill the other one. Or
It's not so bad if they're raised together. If they're raised together, it's kind of okay.
exactly.
Uh, we had a dog that passed about a year and a half ago. He and one of our cats were best friends, and they played together and they hung out all the time. Our cats don't really like our newer, like we've got 2 pretty big dogs now, and our dogs were all small before. The cats don't really like the big, they tolerate them. It's not like they fight. But
Yeah.
one of the younger, like we have one that's just basically a puppy. She's just a year old. And one of the cats, she loves that cat and she just wants to play all the time, and that cat
Mhm.
doesn't want to play with her anymore now that she's as big as she is.
Yeah,
But
no,
they
man.
tolerate each other. They get along.
Yeah. No, that's true. No, Greg, it's been a pleasure to actually to have you up here in this show, and all the stuff which you shared. I can't really tell you, it's just next level, man. Especially
Oh,
the
thank you.
final bit of this one. This is one of the best answer, the most descriptive answer I've ever actually heard from all the guests. Till date, that how they go about finding the quality leads. You actually break it down everything step by step with no steps skipped. And that's something if someone is going to follow these steps, I think it's a complete thing in itself. So it's a
Yeah,
complete course,
hopefully it's
I
helpful.
would say. So yeah, for all the people who want to know more about you, is there something the best place? Is it LinkedIn or
Yeah, LinkedIn's
your
the best
video
place. I
series?
used to say Twitter, but Twitter's kind of dying. So LinkedIn's the best place. Just do a search for Greg Gifford. I'll pop up probably number one or number two.
Okay.
There's a lawyer in the UK that shows up fairly often too, but you could pretty easily find me on LinkedIn or the SearchLab website's another great place. You can email me through the website. All of our videos or all of my videos are posted on the site.
So,
So there's both of those places are great ways to follow me.
yep, no worries. So now, man, it's been a pleasure getting this inside scoop from SEO from you. And thanks for joining us and diversify these digital depths with us. And it's really marvelous. And definitely I'm gonna be connect with you on LinkedIn. We'll be in touch and go through all your material as well. And then yeah, for all the people who gonna be listening this one, I'm gonna put your LinkedIn URL and even the website
Sweet.
address on the YouTube video as well.
And if I end up getting invited to that conference the next time around, we'll have to
Yes,
hang out
yes.
when I'm in town.
Definitely, for sure, Matt. We are actually connected on LinkedIn now, so it's a lot more easy. Just give me a bell, and then I'll be there to catch up with you. It's
Sweet.
always a pleasure to meet the like-minded community, I would say.
Yep.
Now, thanks for that. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.